Okay, thank you, Dr. Lipo. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. Happy Valentine's Day. All of that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
A lot of
Yes.
AI chat going in there in the chat room. Good to see everybody. Yes, so once a month, as you may or may not know, we are very fortunate in the Light Center to join you all here in Faculty Lounge for our talk series. The talk series is a monthly 20 to 30-minute professional development webinar brought directly to you faculty to enhance your teaching practices with impactful insights and practical strategies. I still think we have a few people heading over to the breakout rooms. Feel free to join those as you need to. This session is being recorded, as are all of the faculty lounges. So if you do need to come back and catch up on this really great session, please do. Each session is being held the second Friday of every month this year. So, and we're going to be including takeaways, resources, things that we want to share with you to support you in our topic. So, TALK stands for Teaching Effectiveness, Active Learning, Learning for All, creating those inclusive, supporting environments, and knowledge sharing. We're bringing it directly to you faculty because we also need to hear your experiences, what you are seeing, what you are experiencing, and how we can better support you. But before we do that, I want to make sure that I go ahead and drop the survey link for you. As we do with every webinar, if you do please, or every PD initiative event that you attend, we want to make sure that we get your feedback. So please do go ahead and take that survey link now. And in 2025, if you want a live certificate or a hard emails copy certificate directly to you, please complete that survey. We no longer automatically send certificates. We don't want to clog your inbox, but we do know that you all also want to be able to request those when you want to have them. So please do complete the survey. Whether you want a certificate or not, we need your feedback. But when you do, that is when you can also check off that you want the survey, the email direct certificate directly sent to you. Sorry, getting over a little flu this week. So just trying to go through my notes here. So yes, the rooms are open for those breakout rooms. Please do feel to go ahead and attend your breakout rooms here. I think we still have a couple people that need to go. Please, if you need some help getting into your breakout room, you can directly message Dr. Lipo and go ahead and jump into your breakout room. Before we get into our content, though, just a little reminder, thank you everyone for having your mics muted until you are ready to talk. We are recording. The slides and the recording for this will be sent in the PD2Go newsletter. Of course, because this is part of Faculty Lounge, you can also find it in the Faculty Lounge Drive, where all of the recordings of the Faculty Lounge sessions are available for you. So please do check those out. If you've missed a different session of Faculty Lounge, I know that Dr. Lipo does record those for you as well. So always you're free to throw some comments or questions in the chat box, but also we also encourage you to unmute and share or raise your hand and share whenever you need to. Today, I'm very excited to bring on Dr. Mary Broding. She is a member of our Learning Experience Design team here at Westcliff University. If you don't know her, she's also an adjunct faculty member and researcher. She has done so much in different areas, working with effective teaching strategies, inclusive learning spaces. She's really a wonderful, wonderful asset for us all here at Westcliff University. She has worked in the Light Center in the Professional Development Office. She's worked as a writing tutor and of course in various roles in administration as well. So I'm good with that. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Mary Broding.
Thank you, Joni. So we're going to review just a couple of things about the flipped classroom right now. So in terms of defining it, it really shifts direct instruction outside of class via videos, readings, or other media before the class meets. In-class time is dedicated to applied learning, collaboration, and problem solving. So the students are responsible for reviewing content, videos, reading articles, reviewing assignment requirements, all of that stuff outside of the classroom so that they come to class prepared to engage in active learning, and it allows students to learn at their own pace before coming to the class. They can always reach out to the instructor with any questions that they have about content. And it also helps faculty spend less time lecturing and have more time for in class for facilitating deeper learning with students. Yeah, as we know, not just at Westcliff, but everywhere else, the flipped classroom does not always go as planned. So we are going to talk about what to do when it flops, which some of these reasons are listed here. So lack of student preparation, in my experience, that's really like the biggest one. Passive or overwhelming pre-class content, so that can just go to, you know, sometimes demotivating students to prepare for class. Um, Ineffective in-class activities. Sometimes this may be too much lecturing, not enough time for content to be reviewed in class activities not aligning specifically with the content and then leading up to those assignments, lack of student accountability. And then sometimes it can also be as just as simple as technology barriers. So some strategies for flipped classroom success, rethinking pre-class content, making sure that it's accessible to students, that it directly aligns with um, the assignments. And I know that here at Westcliff, you don't, as an instructor, you don't have the ability to change the readings it listed in the syllabus. But what you can do is you can highlight some, you can tell students like this is the most important one, or you can supplement and say, yes, you need to review these, but you also need to review these other resources that I've given to you before class. Enhancing in-class activities, ensuring that those in-class activities directly align with the materials, because if there is a disconnect, that's very demotivating, but it can also be confusing to students to just kind of throw things off. Short quizzes or reflections, such as knowledge checks, like the beginning, middle, end of the class session, just to make sure that you're getting in real time the students' understanding of the material. And that allows you to pivot as needed to make sure that students do understand like a specific key concept before moving on to talking about how it applies to something on a larger scale. Group-based classwork, which we love to do, encourages peer accountability. And then also leveraging technology, making sure it's something that students can all access regardless of where they're at or what type of device they're on. And most of the best solutions for using the flipped classroom come in the preparation and the expectations communicated to your students. So making sure you're prepared with your lesson planning and your planning for aligning the resources for that week or for the previous week with the upcoming week. And then just very clearly explaining to students, being really transparent with that. Like you are getting participation points for X, Y, and Z, or if you don't do this, you're not going to be prepared properly for the assignment. Awesome. So this is where I'm going to open it up to discussion. So first question is, do you use the flipped classroom? And if so, what challenges have you encountered when trying to implement a flipped classroom or other active learning strategies? And you can go ahead and just speak up, or you can put your answer in the chat, and Joni and I will monitor those. All right, Dr. Lipo. Yes, I assign items that students must research before they come to class. So can you tell us what you would have them research and how it would align with the content that you're going to be addressing in that upcoming class session? Oh, and they lead the discussion. Okay.
Yeah, they research, and it's either individually, depends on what we're talking about. It's either they get something that's vital for understanding in that session, or as a group, they research it and lead the discussion as it comes up in class.
And then how do you motivate them and how do you hold them accountable?
Well, it's rather obvious. I mean, what happens, because I'll say, okay, John, it's time for you. Tell us all about this. And when they sit there blinking like a goldfish staring at a bowl, I then, okay, got 10 minutes, research it now. And after that happens the first time, it never happens again.
Do you tie participation points to that as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Everything is tied to the participation. And it's
Awesome.
items that they have to read anyway.
Thank you. All right. I don't know who Ship TAC 10101E is. So if you could please put your name in the chat. It says, yes, a lot of students are working and they're coming to class and they're very tired, especially after 1 hour. Okay, so with that being the case, how do you how have you addressed that in your life class when that happens?
One moment, please. I want to see that I'm in class. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yes, actually, all our students are working during the day, and they are coming at the end of the day. They are coming at the end of the day. And in the first 30 minutes, 1 hour, they are active. They just came. After that, they relax and they are very tired and they are inactive. After that, I am dealing with that. I am giving them in class activity. I divided them in groups and I gave them to topics to talk about that. And the other, they will ask them questions about the topic, so that I will keep them active to avoid this passive manner in class. They are not sleeping, they are not, so I will keep them active. So this is the way how I'm dealing with that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amarine. After I saw who you were on camera and heard your voice, I was able to recognize you. Thank you. And then, okay, there's a question for Dr. Lipo, and then we'll go to the person who has their hand raised. So Professor Clary says, Dr. Lipo, do you assign one part of the reading to one student and then other parts to different students?
So for example, if we're talking, I take the terminology, important terminology from the readings, and I will assign specific items in there to the students. Some I'll keep myself, and that way they're doing the lion's share of the talking, and I'm only filling in the gaps.
Awesome. Thank you. Professor Maria Vigia, I hope I pronounced that right. What's your
Hello. Yeah.
question?
Hi. Hello, everyone. So it's not a question, it's just to provide how I do it, the flipped classroom. In my case, I just I provide, after I explain the topic or some formulas, I prepare I get exercises and prepare them to in between break rooms and prepare them to be in team the whole class, and then after it, I assign them to present that resolve the equation or problem and present it. And I had the challenge that some students don't want to speak and they just assign one leader of the group. But since I need to grade them the participation, what I did is that I try to improve the exercises that I provide, so everyone can participate in some parts, some doing introduction, conclusion, results, and other examples, so they can enhance it more and participate everyone. That's how I manage the challenges.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a couple other in the chat. So Dr. McCoy said, I'd like to take just a few moments to just kind of understand how their day went to help them change gears. Ask them if any of the applied learnings from the class, ask them if they applied any of the learnings from the class in their professional environment. I assign articles. Professor Scobie, I assign articles from required reading or additional reading and videos in the curriculum and ask students to present them in class. And then we have group discussions. Okay, so we are definitely moving on to the second question. How do you help your student understand the value of a flipped classroom and encourage their buy-in, especially those who are used to passive learning models? So we definitely have a lot of good strategies here. Dr. Lipo, the assignment is made 2 to 3 days prior to the class meeting, so there's plenty of time. I make people get up and move around every 30 to 45 minutes so they do not fall asleep. I think that is really important. It's so hard, like when you've been sitting all day in front of the computer, or even just after a long day. Professor McCoy, I explain how the elements from their learning apply to their real world jobs. Professor Clay, poll anywhere. I think is it poll everywhere?
Poll everywhere.
Poll everywhere. Okay, is a great tool to let them assign an emoji to their mood day. There are so many K through 12 like strategies that are coming into play here. Like that, it's great that you're doing like a check-in with them. I think that lets them know that they're valued and then they're more likely to open up. Dr. McCoy, write a paragraph of 300 words on what challenges they have and what solutions they can provide that are in the topic of the curriculum. LaFawn, I find that they do not read or even touch gap after class. They have a different mindset. I think this is and I'm not going to speak for everyone, but in my experience, this is the hardest thing to navigate is like just so many of them just don't. Why do you have a laughing emoji?
Based off of that last, what you're talking
Got it.
about.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's just a emotion, but yeah, I understand. I understand that fully, but please go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure I was like, what am I missing? Yeah, that's the hardest hurdle to get over is to make sure that they are accessing that content prior to class. And then Joni, how are you front loading the expectations of what should happen between classes? So what are some strategies in terms of front loading that those expectations? So Professor Lipo, do you go over that with students the first day of class?
Yes, I do. I also, one thing that I've learned over the past few years is instead of asking the question and then calling on someone, and then I get a lot of, can you repeat the question? I call on them first and I'll say, John, so this question is coming to you. Jill, you're going to answer it next. And then I ask the question. I don't repeat myself. If they ask me to, I say, sorry, unless something was going on, some noise or something. If they don't answer, I just move to the next person.
Okay. Okay.
I asked that about front loading the information because that's one of the biggest complaints that we hear from our students is I didn't know I had to read that. I didn't know I had to watch that video. I didn't know that I had to. And so it's really hard to try to, uphold this active learning strategy that we're asking faculty to do when our students are telling, whoever will listen to them, sometimes even Dr. Lee, I didn't know I had to do that. So what is different from Dr. Lipo from what everybody else is doing is what I'm trying to tease out. That's where this topic came from. Why are the flipped classrooms flopping? And what can we do to like really hold our students accountable? We know one of the big ones is, and this is why I brought in Dr. Brody, course design. Faculty don't always feel like they get to mark students down. That little bit of agency that we have, that the faculty have, is in those participation points, right? But there's also like, and that was why one of the important parts on the slides too, how are we preparing our students? Are we in gap? Are faculty in gap? Do are students getting announcements from gap, like, and how can we kind of close some of that? That's definitely, I think it's a concern for the Light Center. I think it's a concern for Office of Faculty Affairs, because it bounces back to us like, okay, how are we helping faculty? How are we supporting faculty in this way? So definitely really appreciate hearing some of the solutions as well as the challenges. But that was why I asked that question about
Just to
like front loading.
just to finalize too, I take the last 15, 20 minutes and go into detail about what's coming up next.
Hmm.
And tie them back to things that we've already talked about. And then remind them, because I already know what I'm going to be doing the following week. You're going to get an email from me about what you're going to be responsible for leading the discussion on. So be ready.
LaFawn had a question.
Yes,
has a question.
to get them to go back into Gap, I tell them all the time to go to the announcement section, because in that section I have writing tools that will help them with their assignments. And then when they turn in the writing assignments, it's clear that they haven't visited the announcement section because of the way the paper that they turn in, because I have examples of papers there. I have videos there. Like the videos are no more than 20 minutes long, and it's from the same person. It's a student who has mastered the APA, and the literature review, and how to put your paper together, and they still will not go there.
I have a question for you, LaFawn. When you let them know about this, do you like show them on the first day? Like walk them through where the resources are?
Good question. So what I do is I yes, the first class I always go through a list of student, I call it gosh, I forgot what I call it, but it's like a student guide, like everything you should be doing in class, like I wouldn't say the rules, but um for the lack of a better word, the rules for the class, like in regard to writing, in regard to your assignments. And oh, I know what I call it, the student's pledge. And I accumulated these things from the issues that I've had after each class in getting from the students feedback. And if they would just read the material, they would have everything before them. But going back to that, I always, during each class, I go to the announcement section. I said, okay, this is where we've been, and this is next week's assignment. And this is where you can find the information. When I do the discussion questions, I still put the rules, right? On they need to be peer-reviewed sources. And there's a video for how you find peer-reviewed sources. And I have the librarian come to the class and give a tutorial on how you find the resources using Westcliffe's library and Google Scholar, and still it falls flat.
I think I know a lot of us experience that, right? Like we provide students with so many resources and we keep taking them back to it and they just don't look. Something that I've done, at least with my syllabus, is I always do like a syllabus reconnaissance assignment where students have to go in and like 10 or 15 minutes they have to come up with a couple key takeaways and a couple of questions, and then I'm able to like answer the questions, and it like forces them to like actually look at the syllabus or pretend to and like engage with the material. And this is just a thought, and this doesn't mean this would work at all. But I'm wondering if like every week that you have an assignment, or sorry, an announcement or new resources, what if you designated a student to have to go in and like look at it beforehand and then report out to the class like, oh, this is what she added this week and da 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 da, something that like is worth participation points, that like gets them touching and looking at that information. And it might ignite something, it might fall flat, but it might be a way to get them like regularly engaging with that, because I hate for you to be doing all this work and then they just ignore it.
Yes, and then they don't get involved until week 6 when they see what grade they have, and then now all of a sudden they're all involved now. But by that time, it's too late. And then, I get these emails, to pull at my heartstrings, and I have to, like, show them the policy that I give you all this information in the beginning so that when it comes down to the last few weeks, they really don't care about the reading. I'm gonna be honest. They just care about passing the class by that time.
Yeah, the desperation of some students. And again, like there's no
Get it?
100% way. I'm pretty sure everybody who's here knows there's no 100% like solution. You're always going to have one or two students that do that. But I will say, and this is something I always say in with new faculty as well, is the program chairs at Westcliff do an amazing job if you are following the policies of backing you up. So I see a lot of new faculty in the lounge today. I love it, love it, love it. Wonderful to see you here. Please know that like one of the things that we always hear back from faculty in the Light Center is how much the program chairs are supportive of faculty who are following the policies. So anyways, I'm gonna turn over to Dr. Johnson. You were about to speak.
Yeah, and just getting them to do the reading before class is an act of God. Most of them don't have the books. Most of them, and I don't want to come across that I'm against this because I'm not. I'm complete. That's not the point. But it's just been the execution, and like she just said, all of a sudden they hit panic mode week 6 or week 7 and go, oh my gosh, and just can you do just one time? And it's like, well, we've been doing this. You would think they'd be getting into the mode of how this thing works, but it just it seems that sometimes it puts a lot of pressure on professors to somehow pull a rabbit out of the hat because they're not doing the work. It doesn't take many, let's face it doesn't take money for that if they're not doing the reading it annihilates a flipped classroom.
Right. But if you're following the policy, like as a faculty member, if your grading's up to date, you're following all the policies properly, like there has to be a point, and I could be wrong. Maybe I'm the bad guy. I worked for one college one semester where they came in, actually it was days after the term had ended and said, could you please? And this student had done nothing from week 1, and it was a 9-week course. And I said, never again. Like, I will not teach for you because I'm not going to be a part of this enabling. That student goes on. What did they tell the next faculty member, the next faculty member? And look, now they're in an MBA program and they can ask that faculty member, but I'm an A student, right? That's the thing that they love, to have that A identity. Like, we need our A students to be real A students. And I'm not saying like be hardcore. If they really do have, we want to show empathy and understanding when we can. But one of the things that I see really successful faculty do is from day one say, communicate with me. Nobody should be showing up in the last 2 weeks of class telling me now what you've been going through for the last 4 weeks. And you can still honor their bravery and their courage to come to you in week 8 or in week 7, but like there's really very little you can do at that point. It's because you will make it hard for the next faculty member.
I understand that, but also it seems like recently, and I'm talking very recently, the administration has always been very good when evaluating faculty about weighing the teacher evaluations accordingly. When you've got an evaluation, say, and I'm just going to say, Dr. Broding, for instance, I'm going to say she's got 6 people who give her a 5, 3 people that give her a 1, and you're like, they're in the same class. So how accurate are the ones? Are these the people who just didn't do that? And the administration is looking more at evaluations of professors, and it seems like we're slipping into the mode of Westwood College and some of these others where all of a sudden you're going to be, if you don't start becoming more liberal with grading, and if it affects your evaluation, and if it's going to affect other things, we're only going to do things with regard to agency theory of what's best for us.
I'm glad the program chairs in the room chime in on that one, because I don't assign
I'm glad someone else feels that way, because I've been with Westcliff coming up on 2 years, and I get obliterated during those evaluations, and it's very unfair for me. I don't feel good about myself, And I know that I went over and beyond. I've given myself, I told them I'm available, but I'm gonna be honest, they just don't do the work. I have students come in, I see them week 1 or 2 and disappear, and then they reappear in week 7. And I'm sending them messages, where are you? Like, hello, and I get nothing, and then they'll just reappear and want to dispute their grade.
I put something in the chat and it just may sound better just coming out. You know, first of all, I think for when I think about it, I think about where we are right now in our climate of, you already know where I'm going, in this artificial intelligence era that we're in. We've made we've made everything that we do to be very easy, accomplishable. Um, you know, students simply don't engage like maybe some of us did, you know, um, or all of us did. So it's like, well, what do we do next? So like my other question here, what is the alternative to a flip classroom? We have moved so far away from traditional podium teaching, instruction, papers, grading. We're moved into an era to where we're teaching online. We're doing traditional teaching with a blend of uh, the flip activity. So is the question is, well, if we're moving from, what is the next thing that we're going to be doing now? What are we doing now to engage those students who, when you're teaching a class and they're doing this all day, all throughout the class, what is the next style of teaching? I don't have a response for that. I can think of some really great things, but I haven't thought them all the way through. But I think it will involve a great deal of artificial intelligence and less human interaction. That's what I feel. You know, sometimes you speak to students, it's almost as if they'd rather not hear from you at all. Just tell me what I need to do, and I may do it or I may not. But so that's my feel.
Well, it's true that a lot of this stuff is going in that field, but at the same time, are the students now better than they were before? And the answer is clearly no. Their critical thinking skills are not as what they used to be. Even in the test scoring, they're going down. In fact, I mentioned in a previous um, faculty lounge meeting that the last PAC meeting I went out was brutal because they're saying that recent college graduates have no skills. They can't critically think. They can't present. They can't write. In fact, what two hiring managers of rather large firms told me, they don't want to hire anybody under 30. So, the new doesn't mean better, and it hasn't for a long time. It doesn't mean we obviously don't want to adopt newer technologies to try and make it better, but they're not substitutes for it. And I don't know. It just seems like we're even in education where we kind of succumb to the shiny new object regardless of its efficacy.
Mary and Joni, if I
Wow.
can, just to
Yes,
answer a couple of things.
please.
With regard to what was brought up about the end of course surveys, believe me, I know. Prior university, before coming to Westcliff, my nickname was the GPA killer because they got real feedback and they got the grades they earned. The chair I worked for understood the same way I do. Many times it's a popularity contest. We've seen students give faculty 5s for grading on time, and the faculty member is 3 to 4 weeks late. So we understand that. You're going to get students who like you and students who hate you, and everything in between. We look at the qualitative comments. If you get a 1 from everyone, we'll investigate. And we don't just look at that number and say, oh, there's a problem. It goes beyond that. And we understand they might not like the grade they got. That's fine. It's still the grade they earned. And yes, some students we want them to learn, but you know, to change up the old saying about leading a horse to water, you can lead a student to knowledge, but you can't make them think, can't make them learn. You know, if they're going to put both feet out and try to prevent us from dragging them into the knowledge they need, that's on them. We can only provide it to them. So we can tell them why, and that's it. As far as with AI and working with students and whether or not they're going to be vocal or interactive, it absolutely can happen. Jody Constant and I did a 3-hour session with students about AI, and we had all the rooms doing the same work at the same time, and the noise level was deafening because of how involved everyone was. So it can happen, it can work. I challenge you to think about how you are presenting it. Because if you're really engaged with it and really hyped up about it, that gets it to the halfway point, I think.
That's really good.
Jim.
Thank you. We have a couple more faculty. Oh, Dr. Wiltshire, can you give me a second? I just want to make sure. Who did you have your hand up, but you're still shop talk 1010E.
It's Dr. Amarine.
Dr. Amarine.
Thank you very much. I just want to say one thing. Students will not participate in any flipped classrooms if they don't have grades. If they don't have benefits from that, they will not participate. Yes, they will participate because they respect you as a faculty, but we have in GAP 2 things: attendance and there is participation grade. Participation grade, the student usually, as the attendant, the class, then they will have 100%. I am telling my students that the participation grade is participation grade. Attendance is different. It's attendance. So these two different features. So when I am making any class activity, I make as a participation grade. So I am cutting grade if they are not participate, or they didn't upload it on the GAP, or they didn't create it as what if they didn't include the things that I want to hear from them, if they didn't ask question, if they didn't engage in the discussion. So I cut grade for them in the participation. And in this case, it will keep them in very attention, and they will listen to you with the 3 hours from 6:20 to 9:20 all the time, or from 1:40 to 4:40 or whatever. So we have to use this as a feature in our work to make our flipped classroom successful. Thank you.
Got to
Professor
remember,
Wiltshire.
it's not them just listening to you. It's listening and engaging with each other as well.
That's really good.
Exactly. I'm talking about that when they are asking questions from one day. I am asking everyone have to ask questions to another group. When I'm creating groups, I ask them to ask questions. This is not about to me. No, I am just a watcher. I am watching them. I am watchman only. That's all.
Professor Wiltshire, you had your hand up, and then Dr. Haddad.
I just wanted to say to Professor LaFawn that one of the things that I do is week one, I go through the complete syllabus. I was taught by Dr. Lipo, so it's very, very detailed. Let's go through every single week of the class year. We go through all of the assignments. I make sure that they understand that all of the YouTube videos are to be watched, all the articles are to be read. We continue that discussion through week one, week two, week three, and I put it in the chat. By week three, I'm starting to push the students towards being and setting a standard of excellence for themselves and the production of their assignments. And by week four, I'm letting them know exactly where they stand. In my conversations with them, I'm going over the following or the next week's syllabus. I tell them exactly what I want to see in their responses, and this is how you will be graded. That participation now comes through the discussion. When I'm featuring any of their DQs or their PLAs, I make sure that I'm giving them feedback, and I'm also previewing those assignments to the rest of the class. And then I drill down. I'll ask them questions about, do they know some of the terminology and some of the language? Then we go through that and work through that as well. So it's control, it's being in charge of the class, and letting the students know that these are the expectations and we're going to set them just as if you were in the workplace. So that's kind of the way that I handle it. And it's an effective way to get them and get their attention. I'm in control of the class from the beginning to the end. Week one through week 8, I'm in control. So I just, and it's friendly. It's let's have some fun with this and enjoy your class and enjoy the information, and hopefully you'll grow through the experience. But they know that I'm in control.
Thank you for sharing that.
And I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, thank you. So just as a follow-on, basically the same thing, I set the expectations at the beginning of the class, and I keep reminding students also at the beginning with some reminders, some announcements in every lecture. So I go through the material, and then I do breakout sessions where I assign them a case study, and I assign each team a case study so I don't hear the same thing again and again, and students will get bored. So if I have 5 teams, I will create like 5 case studies, and that will promote their research, their critical thinking. I give them also the tools that will help them in order to come up with a presentation. And I said everyone in the class, everyone in the team needs to present. It's not one student or another student. And I always get a lot of good feedback. And then I would provide them feedback, and that will help them also. Every time you give them feedback, that will help them in the final presentation. So by the time they get there, they address all the feedback that I provided them during those practice runs. I would call them practice runs, but at the same time, they get the participation grade. So I have no issue with students' participation. The other thing is sometimes I give them very ambiguous high level requirements, and so that will promote the way they think about it, how they approach the problem, how they approach it. And if they don't understand, they raise their hands and they ask questions. So that will also trigger them to ask questions, clarification questions. And of course, you jump into the breakout room to see how they're progressing and give them feedback as well, and see if they have any questions. And I've been doing that, I guess, for the longest, for 4 or 5 years now, and never had an issue with participation or engagement.
Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Zakarian, you have your hand up.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to share my experience regarding the activity. So every time I'm trying to work to do something extra than syllable requires, and I'm during the preparation of the presentation, I always trying to make some real world examples and make some exercises to give the opportunity to for students to be involved. So in every class we have time like around 20 or 30 minutes every time. It could be in the end or in the middle of the class. I'm giving the opportunity to discuss, to share their own opinion, to work in groups. So at this time, there is no chance somebody can go and leave the class without any participation. And in the end of the class, I asking some suggestions what they want recommend me to improve my classes, and every time they give in some feedback like they like this activity and they suggested me to continue to do the same or to improve, to give them chance to be more involved. So just come and listen the textbook. It's not interesting for students and for teachers too, for faculties too. So that's why I'm trying to make it more interesting, more modern, and it works for now. Thank you.